How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dance School here again today, back once again with another video in my Warhammer 40,000 Conquest series. Today, we'll take a look through the pages of issue 30. It's great Conquest, isn't it? You know, building up your collection week after week, but a purchase you might not want to make normally is terrain. You might not want to spend your hard-earned money, or if you're a youngster, your pocket money, your allowance on things like terrain, because you want models to add to your army. But for me, having terrain is a fantastic thing, because you can just set up a game at home then. You don't have to go down to your local games workshop, your local hobby store, your local gaming club. You don't even have to find one of them if you don't want to. You can set up your miniatures at home, get a friend to play with you, and just go on from there. And issues like this for me are fantastic, because in this issue we get the Rise of Pattern Ruins, which are here. Granted, we don't get a complete set of Rise of Pattern Ruins, we only get 2 sprues. These 2 sprues are half of what you get in the standard box of Rise of Pattern Ruins from Games Workshop, which comes in at £17.50. So let's divide that by 2, that's £8.75. So it's a saving of 76p on this issue. So it's not the highest value issue, but in terms of adding that extra dimension to your game, as I've said in previous episodes of this Conquest review show, in terms of adding that extra immersiveness to your game, terrain's fantastic in my opinion, and it's like I said, it's not one of those things you think about picking up necessarily, because you might want to add an extra unit of boys to your Orc army, you might want to add an extra unit of intercessors to your Space Marines, you might want to add an extra unit of striking scorpions to your Eldar force. So you put off buying terrain, whereas with this, every, let's say, something like 4th or 5th week, something like that, you're going to be getting a little bit of terrain, which in my opinion is a really good way to build up a small terrain collection. You're not going to have loads by the end of it, but you're going to have enough to set up a decent sized battlefield. Now onto the issue. So on the front we've got the Rise of Pattern Ruins very nicely painted there. And then we've got the standard thing we always have that I always seem to point across. But anyway, let's get onto the bullet points here. Learn about Pry Marks, Herald of Noble, and new terrain rules, not new training rules. So, first page, it's the Pry Marks. This is a piece of artwork from one of the Horus Heresy books from the Pry Marks, and it's also in, I think, Visions of Heresy, which is an art book. So the Pry Marks, it talks about who the Primarchs are. They are the sons of the Emperor, spread out across the galaxy by unknown means, and they land on various worlds. And I've spoken about them in previous episodes, so I won't go into too much detail. I'll just run you through who each of these Primarchs are. Let's go start at the end here. So tucked on the end, you can see some wings sprouting out of his back there in the background. That's Sanguinius, Primarch of the Blood Angels. Next to him, you can see some smoke billowing up, some green toxic smoke. That is Mortarion, Death Guard Primarch. We've seen him already in this magazine. Then we've got the mighty Magnus the Red, with horns coming off of his armour. Angron is next to him, of the World Eaters. Then we've got Jagatai Khan. Next to him, I think that's Lorgar. It looks like he's got some writing on his flesh, so I think that's Lorgar. It does say somewhere, actually. It might be on the next page. It does say which Primarchs are featured in this picture. And next to Lorgar, we've got Dawn. Now, Dawn's my favourite Primarch, probably. I need to read more about him before I can say for definite he's my favourite Primarch, but I just love how stoic he is, and how much... I don't know, it's interesting, because I like a lot of the features Dawn has that are features shared by Primarchs like Lim and Russ, and I don't like Lim and Russ. I mean, I kind of do like him a little bit, but obviously he's an enemy of the Thousand Sons when it comes to the heresy and stuff, so it's a bit, I think because Dawn's not a hypocrite like Russ is, so I can be drawn to someone with similar qualities to Russ, who isn't Russ. But yeah, Dawn is fantastic. A lot of people hate Dawn though, they think he's an absolute, not idiot, I'm trying to think of the right word, but keep it polite. They think he's a bit of bit of an arsehole. That's probably the most polite way of saying it. But yeah, next to Dawn, Rogel Dawn, is Horace Lucca in his white Lunar Wolves armour, and next to him is Fulgrim, the peacock of the Primarch family. He is the head of the Emperor's Children, the Primarch of the Emperor's Children. So onto this page, it tells you Primarchs, a few times when Primarchs have faced off against each other. Lionel Johnson and Night Haunter fighting there. Night Haunter, Conrad Kurz of the Night Lords. So Night Haunter or Conrad Kurz of the Night Lords fighting off against Lionel Johnson of the Dark Angels there. Horus fighting Limon Russ, and Fulgrim fighting Ferrus Manus. Now, if you read the Horus Heresy novels in order of release, then that's the first Primarch duel you'll see. You can skip, and the first that actually happened in terms of the Horus Heresy timeline was not that one. Other than there was some animosity between legions like the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves, and Russ and Lionel Johnson fought each other. But it was more akin to an honour duel. I mean, there was hatred there, but there was no intent to murder the other one really in those battles. It wasn't really an honour duel. One felt slighted and took offence to something the other one did, and then they ended up having a bit of a Barney. That's the best way to describe it, probably a bit of a Barney. And yes, so that's what it tells us here about a few times they fought each other, and it gives us more information on this page about the Primarchs. And then this is a map of the galaxy. Again, it's split, unfortunately, on the front side of the page and the back side of the page. It's got a lot of information about chapter planets here, chapters of different space marines. Just going over a few of them, we've got Zephyr of the Stormhawks, Fenris, home of the Space Wolves, Paragon, the Emperor's Hands, Bloodfall, the Red Wolves. I wonder who they are a successor chapter of, the Red Wolves, because the Space Wolves don't have any successor chapters. It could be that they're a Primaris founding chapter. Who knows? I'm sure someone will put in the comments that they know. And then it gives us a bit more information on this side and a bit more detail about certain ones, like the Nova Marines homeworld, the Blood Angels homeworld, the Baal, Invaders, Ogris, and so on and so forth. We've got the Imperial, the Crimson Fist, sorry. I see that symbol, I immediately think Imperial Fist. The Crimson Fist, Rin's World. And Deliverance of the Raven Guard. And then on to Heralds of Nurgle. What information does it give us about Heralds of Nurgle? So the information it gives us is that there are Heralds of Nurgle, and then going on from the Heralds of Nurgle, there's a bigger, badder Herald of Nurgle called the Poxbringers. I didn't know about the Poxbringers. I've seen the miniature before, but I wasn't aware it was different from a Herald of Nurgle, from your standard Herald. But the Poxbringer is like a grumpy sort of... he's got antlers, rotten antlers sprouting from his flesh up top, and a single horn sprouting from his head. And he's... the Poxbringers are extra hardy. They didn't succumb when they were mortals. They didn't succumb to the foul pox, if you like, that Nurgle gifted them with. And then when they ascended to demonhood, even though they're lesser demons, they lead bands of less demons. But when they ascended to demonhood, they were gifted extra size, extra mass, extra durability by Nurgle, as a result of their ability to withstand some of Nurgle's gifts before they became demons. And on to the next page, it gives us a nice short story, City of the Dead. Now, this short story contains none other than the Imperial Fist, who is the chapter, or which is the chapter that I'm painting my Space Marines as. I was going to get some miniatures painted this weekend. I was going to do some Death Guard, but unfortunately, I got distracted by the Galapox Infected from the Rogue Trader Kill Team box set. I started on them instead, and I'm really enjoying painting them so far. I'll share them in a video in the near future on my channel, so keep an eye out for that. But this here, the City of the Dead, it's a battle between the forces of the World Eaters, of the Heretic Astartes World Eaters, and the Imperial Fist Space Marines. The World Eaters forces consist of Khorne Berserkers and Demons of Khorne. Imperial Fist forces consist of Intercessors and a Primaris Chaplain. not very many Imperial Fist forces on the planet. It's a cool little story though. It's only 2 pages long, like most of the short stories we've had in here are. But make sure you give that a good read. And here's an Imperial Fist ship in orbit attacking the planet. And that may or may not be in relation to that story. So, on to the next page. We've got the building guide. As standard, we get a picture of the sprue here to make sure you can see everything that's on the sprue. And the next page gives you the build instructions. Really simple build instructions this time, which I really like. They don't waste any more pages than they have to there. Woo. And then let's flick over onto how to paint Rise of Pattern Ruins. It's a nice little paint job here. A bad and black base coat, and then flicking over. I think I'll probably follow the instructions for these because I'm never sure what colour I want to paint terrain. So if I just follow these instructions, I'll have a nice little bit of terrain there. So after the Abaddon black base coat or the Abaddon black base coat, they say dry brush with Mechanicus standard grey. Paint some metal areas with lead belcher, and you paint the hatch with lead belcher as well. And Retributor armour on some details like pipes and the brassy bit of the hatch. And then it's null oil wash into some of the iron metallic areas, I guess you'd say. And onto the next page, it's an Agrax Earthshade wash on the golden metallic, silver metallic and golden metallic, let's say that instead of iron metallic. So Agrax Earthshade on the golden metallic areas, and then Mephisto red on some of the wires that are featured on the walls and the handle that opens the hatch as well. It's a nice little paint job that, and that is just over 4 pages, so they don't need any more. So they don't use any more than they need. On to the next section. It's teaching us about rules and about interacting with terrain as an infantry unit, as a swarm unit or a beast unit or a unit with a fly keyword or a unit that can fly. And then it suggests all these red areas here, these 4 red areas are areas where your units will get cover. So rather than say if they're obscured by this bit of terrain, they're considered to be inside the ruin in this whole area here, and that's the way the map's marked out for us, and the battle map that we've got so far, the battle map that we've got to represent the city of Barachius. The way that is mapped out is a really simple way of saying is your unit entirely within this section. It doesn't overcomplicate things. The only one that's slightly more complicated than others, they've got this one, this one, this one, and they're all like a single area on the map, so it's really simple. The only one that's slightly more complicated is this one, but it's not that much more complicated because there's a straight line of the ruin here in sort of a T sort of formation, the straight lines of the ruin, so you know where you've got to be and where the unit's got to be in order to benefit in terms of getting a cover save. The next page is cover in ruins, and then it talks you through cover in ruins. It tells you here these 3 Plague Marines are in cover because the entire unit is within this marked out area. However, there's a unit of Poxwalkers here. One of them is outside of that area, so none of the unit benefit from the cover save there. And it talks us through this as well. A vehicle has to be at least 50% obscured in order to benefit from a cover save. And as this Mephitic Blight Hole is not 50% obscured, then it doesn't benefit from a cover save. It also tells us that the cover save just adds a +1 to your dice roll for your armour save. So instead of getting a 3 for the Plague Marines, you have to get a 2 or more. So it makes your units extra durable. Interestingly, in Kill Team, rather than modifying your saving roll, it modifies your opponent's shooting roll. So his to hit roll or her to hit roll. So if a Space Marine is firing at a unit that's in cover, instead of the standard 3 up to hit, they have to get a 4 up to hit. It's a slightly different way of doing it, modifying your saving throw rather than modifying your opponent's to hit roll. However, at the end of the day, it has the same sort of effect. It's all about your unit, if it's in cover, is harder to hit. So you're either getting a modified saving roll or in Kill Team a modified to hit roll for your opponent. So, you know, it's two different ways to come to the same sort of conclusion, basically. I don't even need to mention that, really, because a lot of people watching this won't be playing Kill Team. They'll be just be getting into the main game of Warhammer 40,000. But if you do venture into Kill Team, just try not to confuse the two rules, I guess, is a reason for mentioning that. Then on the next page, it talks more about a Primarchs campaign and the campaign map. And then it talks about some benefits that you can gain if you win the previous battle. I'll just flick forward ahead to this page. It gives us another one of these campaign maps, which I'm really enjoying. Campaign play is something that I've never done because I don't have consecutive games week after week. I don't go down to a gaming club, I don't go down to Games Workshop, I just play every now and again with a friend. I probably play about 2 or 3 times a year, if that. So the small introduction to campaign play, especially with these smaller sized games, when you've only got a certain amount of units, a certain amount of models available to play with, then using them over and over again, getting a few games in an afternoon, is a really nice way to build up a campaign over the course of a couple of visits, where I might go and see my friend down in Derby and play a couple of games one afternoon, and then next time I go down we might play slightly bigger games, but a couple of them hopefully, and then it might finish in one big battle when we've both got enough units to have a larger battle. But yeah, campaign play is something I've always been interested in but never taken part in myself. And the Ultramarines gain a benefit if they've won the previous battle. They gain the Scorched Earth tactic. Whenever the Ultramarine fights a battle in their own territory, they may call down an orbital strike once per game, choose one Death Guard unit and roll a d6. On a 4+, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Sorry, so that is about fighting a battle in your own territory. And there's a similar rule for the Death Guard, and there's a contested territory rule as well, where once per battle both sides get to get a bonus to their dice rolls to hit your opponent, but you select the unit you want that to apply to. So here's some Ultramarine territory up here. These two zones you'll be fighting for in Ultramarine territory, so the Ultramarines have a benefit. And the Death Guard territory is all the dark green here. It's a bit silly saying this is the Death Guard territory and it's dark green. They could have done the intervening territory in red or something just to make it clearer, but this is the Death Guard territory, so the Death Guard have 2 areas of control here, and then you just mark out who wins the battles, and then who wins the campaign overall. You just to work out who's won the campaign overall, you just add up who's won the most battles, basically. And then it's Urban Carnage, a lovely bit of lore here. I'll read you a small part, but I'm not going to read it all.
Death Guard troops advance in a silent procession, trudging over ruins and rubble, accompanied by the creaks and groans of their ancient ceramite armour. Squelching, sloshing noises came from the lumbering foul Blightspawn as its noxious chemicals swirled in its backpack.
Ooh, so it sets the scene nicely for this week's scenario that we've got. The scenario is an objective grabbing scenario. You roll off to see who gets which deployment zone. Whoever chooses the deployment zone, then their opponent then gets to choose who goes first or second. The armies consist of 5 Plague Marines, Chaos Rhino, Tainted Cohort, Foul Blightspawn, Biologist Putrefire. So there's no Poxwalkers in the Death Guard forces this week, which I don't think it's a first, but it creates a slightly different challenge for the Space Marine player. So instead of trying to whittle down the Poxwalkers with lots of bolter fire, you might then have to concentrate that bolter fire as well as fire from one of your other units like your Hellblasters or your Reavers onto a single unit at a time to try and eliminate it. And shoot. There's a phrase, shoot it till it's dead, and it's about making sure you put enough firepower into a single unit to make sure you kill that. Anyway, onto deployment. Players roll off. The winner decides who selects which deployment zone as shown on the map above. The other player gets the opposite deployment zone. Both players take turns deploying units one at a time, starting with the player who chose deployment. The player who did not choose deployment zone can choose to take the first or second turn. So like I said already. And the victory conditions, both armies gain 1 victory point for each enemy unit eliminated. The first player to eliminate an enemy unit gains 1 victory point. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the first time we've seen that rule applied in this Conquest series of magazines. So it's the idea of first blood. Whoever kills the first enemy unit gains a victory point, because it's like a... It's just like a little... It's to encourage you, basically, to go and attack your opponent rather than sit back and let them come onto you, kind of thing. So it's to encourage you to actually try and do something rather than just play for the objectives. Try and kill your opponent's units. If you target a particularly weak unit, you can get a really easy victory point there. Each objective marker is worth 3 victory points to the player who with the most models within 3 inches of it at the end of the game. So it's an objective game, but you can gain victory points in a couple of different ways. And the game has 5 battle rounds. So it's another good issue here with another good scenario at the back of it. And then let's flip to the back page. We've got paints coming next week with a medium layer brush. And then the following we've got Primarchs Apothecary. I said last week that the spoiled, if you like, the spoiled list of what we're getting week after week from the Spanish website we saw a while back. It was suggesting that I think issue 31 should have been a Primarchs Apothecary. But later on in the release schedule, they said the repulsor tank was coming over 4 issues, but there's only 3 sprues to the repulsor tank, I think. So that can't really be split over 4 issues, so I think that was just a slight mistake. So if you want to know what's coming in week 33, if you check that list and see what was supposed to be coming in week 32, and then it'll give you an idea of what's probably coming in week 33. Also, if you go to Forbidden Planet's website, you can check, I think, at least up to issue 35 to see what's coming in each issue. So, yes, Primarchs Apothecary, it's another Space Marine character coming in that issue. It's a £22.50 miniature, so it's a great value issue, that. And an Apothecary is a miniature I've never owned. So I'm looking forward to that one myself. Are you looking forward to that one? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield. That's enough of that.